Hey, welcome back so soon to a very special About the Cards episode, live on a Thursday night at 8 p.m. Pacific. 10 Central.
Sorry.
There we go. Okay. We have an all-star cast with us tonight, returning for one night only. Tim Shepler at Big Shep 79. The Ryan Cracknell of Beckett at Trader Cracks. Hi. And Chris Harris at Stale Gum and of BaseballCardpedia.com. And, of course, the
Hobby Hotline.
Yes. And then the self-proclaimed hobby lawyer at Paul Lesko. Welcome, gentlemen. So, yeah, we got together. It's been a...
No more porn on OnlyFans. What are we going to do? There's another story.
Yeah. Big League Baseball got pushed back again, and that's why we brought you guys here.
Man.
I know. We had to bring out the big guns for that one. We're gonna kind of lead in. Unfortunately, baseball lost baseball's had a bad run over the last 18 months of losing a lot of big name Hall of Famers, All-Stars, well-known players, and unfortunately, Detroit Tiger, team legend Bill Freehand passed away. He had played for the Tigers from 1961 through 1976. He was a 10-time All-Star, 5-time Gold Glove winner, has the 16th highest WAR for a catcher, and does currently sit ahead of both Buster Posey and Yadier Molina. He was the catcher for the 1968 World Series champion Tigers. He died at age 79 after a long battle with dementia, so may he rest in peace. And of course, thoughts and prayers to the Freehand family and the Detroit Tiger family and all of their fans. So got a question for Steph. He wants to know which company lost more value today between Topps and OnlyFans.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so
because both is it's pretty high on both.
So, if you haven't heard the reason that we brought together everybody this evening on super short notice, it was announced today that Fanatics will be taking over the license from Topps in 2026. Topps has the exclusive. I believe it runs through the 2025 year. So we wanted to kind of get into that. We'll go around the room a little bit and just get an instant reaction. What was your first thoughts when you saw it? Steph, we'll start with you, and then we'll just kind of go in order.
Sure. No, I kind of saw this early in that I came across Works timeline. I'm kind of hopeful in that we can see some of the changes that we've all asked for years. However, it is kind of a shame that Topps is being booted, at least as we know it, from having the sole distributor license through MLB and MLPA. And as I said on Twitter, it's like the MLB and MLBPA are treating Topps like the Ronda Rousey triple in her class relic card, because
best card
they kind of booted them to the curb.
So Ryan, what were your first thoughts? Obviously, you work in the industry, so your thoughts are both personal and business.
I was eating lunch, finishing up. I don't even remember what I was eating today for lunch, and I saw it, and it's like a couple choice cuss words of shock ran through my head. Tried to explain. I like to verbalize things, and my wife was the only. Lovely. My wife was the only person.
Never seen that card before?
I've seen it many times, just not while I'm talking.
Associated with you.
But, no, I'm still processing a lot of it because it seems like we're only starting to scratch the surface. The collector in me is like, well, why do I want to continue with this? Do I want to change what I'm doing over the next 3 years? Does it matter? It's kind of like this teen, when you're a teenager and you're like, this is all hopeless. Like, what's the point? There is a bit of that in the initial processing, but there's also, well, this is a fresh start. Could it be if you're paying godly amounts more than what's currently being paid, you've got big plans. Like there's some sort of thing going on there that hasn't run through our minds and ideas. So I'm kind of interested to see what comes of that. And then there's another side of me too, that there's a lot of people working at all these companies today. What the heck is running through their minds? Because that uncertainty piece.
Better start updating that resume.
We'll see. And is it done yet? I don't think it is. I suspect there could be more in play here. I don't know. That's just me guessing. So what's next? And so it's just kind of a wait and see, and I'll just keep plugging away at my expos and wait for stuff to arrive in the mail and try and figure it out and listen and go from there.
Awesome. Paul, I'm going to leave you for last just because of your specific expertise so Chris, I'll have you go next. What were your first initial thoughts?
So I guess the news came up around 4-ish in the afternoon Eastern time.
Yep.
And my first thought was Schadenfreude, because this could not have happened to a better company, especially after all of the crap that we've had to put up with. And I do mean crap for the last decade and a half. Just lousy, mediocre product after lousy, mediocre product. The same concepts, the same reprints, just beaten into the ground over and over. Just the dumb gimmicks, and really not taking a company that just doesn't take its own name seriously. It does, with no, I guess the word, no respect for themselves. And this is how it ends. I'm happy.
I saw a few of your tweets today, and I was like, "Oh, he's going to have a lot of fun today."
There's one thing that I do want to. Now that I've had some time to think about this,
sure,
is it better to have the devil we know or the devil we don't? We know what Topps is. I mean, you could say what you want about Topps, how they, throw a bunch. Phone in all their products, whatever. At least we know what you're going to get with Topps. With this Fanatics, I'm not so sure. I don't know yet. It depends on who they choose to hire.
Sure.
And if anybody from Fanatics is out there, hook a brother up. I'd be more than happy to.
And we
it's
all
the unknown. We don't know what we're going to get with Fanatics. So
now Paul, obviously,
they might very well do what Panini did when they got the NBA license back in 2009. I mean, they got the exclusive NBA license, but they didn't have a presence in this country, and they really had no experience making American-style trading card sets. They just made soccer stickers and collectible games like Panini Adrenaline. So they went out and they bought a company. They bought what was then Donruss Playoff. Yeah, Donruss Playoff. And they made that their American outpost. So I think that sometime between now and 2025, Fanatics is probably going to buy one of the incumbent trading card companies and sort of absorb that into their company. So
now, Paul, obviously you're very unique, and I wanted, you said, hey, I might not be available tonight. I'm like, nah, if we're doing this, I really want you on. You can make it. Go to a Starbucks if you have to. Sorry, I'll pay for the Uber. You have two hats in this. You have the collector, and then you have your professional hat, which is a lawyer, and how this pertains. I mean, you're obviously the one that goes to all the lawsuits for us. You dissect what that means and root for some of these to go forward and root against some of these to be settled, just for the popcorn aspect. Now, what was your reaction from a collector and then a professional perspective?
It's the collector in me. I mean, most of my collection really is Topps. I mean, I mostly collect cards involved in lawsuits, but then I'm a huge baseball fan, and being a baseball collector, I'm kind of a snob, and I need my players in their uniforms. So there's only one outlet for that. So I collect Topps. So with this announcement, there was that moment of, okay, am I going to flip over and become a Fanatics collector? It was, I'd always hoped that as a collector that we get more choice, that eventually an exclusive license would become a non-exclusive and we get multiple companies competing. That's really what I was hoping for. So now to see that not only is it going to be a new exclusive, but it's with an untested company, it's uncertain. I'll certainly, there's some nostalgia with collecting Topps. I mean, everybody here has always known Topps baseball. Like it or not, you've known Topps is making baseball. They've made it for 70 years. It's been out there. It's a staple. So there's going to be a passing of the guard. So the collector in me was kind of sad, but looking forward to the future to see what it is. But the lawyer in me is jazzed. I mean, there is so many potential issues that are going to happen here. I mean, just from potential antitrust issues, because it looks like Fanatics is collecting as many licenses as they can. Will they start buying companies? Will they eventually be sued for antitrust? But then it's just also, especially recently, Panini and Whopper Deck have done a very good job of filing trademarks and just trying to trademark every product name or almost every word they've ever had on a card. And Topps has 70 years of trademarks and copyrights. So just thinking of this new behemoth coming into the industry with all their money and somehow having to craft, because with the license that they got, I mean, they're going to probably have to release 15, 20 products. I'm not sure what the license requires, but they can't just release one product, for baseball a year. It's going to have to be a lot to somehow thread that needle of coming out with all these non-infringing products and not stepping on this intellectual property. It just seems like there's a lot of lawsuits in the future, and that makes me so happy. So it was definitely a schizophrenic response where slightly sad, but looking forward to it. And then there's just that little giddy girl in me that's just like, oh my gosh, start suing everybody. So
and that's why we need
sue everybody.
Yeah.
Why we needed
damages.
So basically, you have the Washington Redskins who became the Washington football team. So we're going to see the 2026 Fanatics baseball card. It's what it'll end up being. They can't call it anything else. It's just a,
And then a couple of months later, they'll come out with Fanatics Heritage. And then they'll come out with Heritage Metal-ish.
Yeah. A while back, there was actually a run on trademarks for metals. I mean, like every company was trying to get the different metal between chromium and gold and platinum and everything else. So I guess, you got tin, tin, you can come out with that, or aluminum. So, Fanatics aluminum.
Last but not least, we got Big Shep. I know your internet connection looks a little unstable, but if you can stay with us, what was your first thought?
Well, first of all, I got to feed my hamster some more to keep the internet going over here. I don't know what's going on tonight. Been working all day. No, I was shocked and just saddened all of a sudden because I have this wall of Topps over here to my right, just of all the football sets and baseball sets I've put together over the years, and it felt like you're losing like a friend all of a sudden, right? And then you start to think about it, but and we'll get into that more detail, but yeah, it was shocking at first because I never thought if anybody was going to lose a license, it wouldn't be Topps and it wouldn't be for baseball. Right. I knew Fanatics. We talked about previously, but the last few years, there's been rumors Fanatics wanted to get into the card game more and more, and I figured they would try to go and snag one from Panini or try to cut Whopper Deck out or something. But with Fanatics having investments from the NFL and MLB. It's kind of opened everybody's eyes, I think, a little bit. So, but I'm shocked, and I want to see where it goes. I'm going to hold judgment a little bit, but yeah, shock and awe was the biggest thing for me.
Yeah, I mean, we could probably have this podcast every couple of months as more information develops and surfaces. This really is the tip of the iceberg, and we all know that an iceberg sits on top of the water, but there's so much of it underneath the water, under the surface, that we don't see. And as this continues to roll out and more information is released, we'll be able to formulate better opinions and insight. Steph, do you want to run through real quick how we got here? I know you'd made some notes.
He's still on mute.
Sorry about that. 1 second. I was trying to turn something off. So I just kind of did a once over of some of the key major players here and threw together some of the notes that I thought were key and relevant. So in 2009, Topps was instated as the sole fully licensed MLB PA licensee. Whopper Deck tried to drop a release in 2010, got manhandled over it. Essentially, they lost their license. Panini was out of the game at the time. Until the next year, 2011, Panini gets the MLB PA license. They haven't gained the MLB license since, but the PA license has served them well. In 2017, the NFL and Major League Baseball invested $150 million each. So $300 million to Fanatics, which is kind of foreboding and interesting, you would think, for a league. But 2020, Fanatics, maybe 2019, somewhere in there, they swooped in and started to sell some blasters on the websites, in particular specialized from Panini. So some of the Fanatics, Optic Fanatics, that every other set. And then, of course, earlier this year, January, February-ish, Topps announced they were going public with their stock. So that leads us into today's news.
Yeah, go for it. Let us know exactly what happened from at least just a helicopter view of things.
Sure. So Fanatics is in as the MLB and MLB PA license holder in 2026. Topps license is not renewed as of current. As of that announcement, the founder of StockX, Josh Luber, hope I'm pronouncing that right, will lead Fanatics' new trading collectibles venture. Fanatics apparently has also brought in the MLB, MLB PA, NBA, and I think there was a typo, NLB PA, and the NFL PA on board for releases and sets, which is going to be really interesting. And then, of course, the SPAC that was working with Topps to go public, MUDs tanked 2.13% today, closing at $10. And after hours trading, it's already down to $9.90. And it's essentially just kind of a steady throughout the day, and then 3:30 hit and it's down with the announcements.
That's how markets react. This is negative for them, so it's going to react. It could rebound. And again,
sure.
Are we all kind of have a consensus that at some point we can foresee? I know, Chris, you had alluded to it, that there's more to the story. Fanatics is going to acquire something at some point, or whether it's controlling interest in Topps, maybe that's the play. Topps makes cards. They've got the manufacturing. They've got the distribution. They've got the partnership with third-party logistic partners. I mean, Fanatics can look at them and just say, hey, listen, we want you to continue to make cards, but on the back now, when we flip it over, much like in the 80s and 90s when you saw Leaf Incorporated on the back of Donruss cards, are we just going to see 2026 Topps flagship flip it over? It'll say Fanatics on it. I would imagine that's probably better than them. They're going to sub this. And Paul, can they do that with just in the abstract? We don't know what the contract looks like in the agreement, but something they could do.
It's always possible, but when you have an exclusive and there's the economics of it and then the legalities of it. Typically, if you have an exclusive license, there's multiple reasons for it, but at least from the licensor, it would be, the MLB here, they only want to deal with one party. And part of that license will involve, kind of a proofreading or to make sure that the product that's coming out is actually up to snuff. It's up to their standards. When you have an exclusive license, you're only dealing with one company. When you're sub-licensing, well, then you're as a licensor, being put under other obligations by potentially multiple other companies that now have to proofread their products for potentially companies you didn't even approve. So typically when you have an exclusive license like this, you're not going to necessarily be able to sub-license it out. Again, you don't know it until you see the contract, but that my first feeling is it's not going to be something that you sub-license out. And also because of the economics. We don't know how much Fanatics paid for it, but they paid more than Topps. So they have to make a lot of money back in order to get that. And you're not going to make money back if you're sub-licensing it out to other people, I mean, that's going to, potentially have what you should be able to get, by making it yourself. So I think if Fanatics wants to make products that have recognized trademarks in it, they're going to have to acquire somebody or acquire somebody's IP. Because I mean, Topps, while all of us here probably think of them more as a baseball card company, they do Garbage Pail Kids. They do a lot of things.
Sure.
They do a lot of candy. So that might be something that they could spin off into sale. Or same thing with Whopper Deck or Panini. So I think like you're saying with the iceberg, I mean, there's a lot of steps between now and the future. But if I understand it correctly, they have the exclusives for the MLB PA, NFL PA, and is it the NBA also? So right there, you have issues with players right away. So I think we could start seeing changes sooner than later, because rather than having a blanket license for players, now if Topps is going to have players in there, they have to have separate contracts. And they do have separate contracts with quite a few players, but your roster has shrunk. You're going to have to send your people out to sign them more to grow it even more after that. So.
Well, to be honest, I mean, I think that you don't throw a brand away like Topps and what that's meant over 70 plus years. So I think that, to me, that's going to be the play, is that they're going to go out. They announced this ad was like 2 weeks before they were supposed to do all this going public, right? Mm-hmm. And yeah, brings the value down probably a little bit without their biggest license. Is now going to be gone in a couple years, and what better time to come in and say, hey, let's buy it and bring it in and put it under everything else we have, and we do this. Now my question is it, I know it's an exclusive with Major League Baseball, but also the players, is it exclusive for the players too? So now Panini can't produce baseball cards anymore as well?
That's
my understanding. 23, I believe.
Yeah, 2023, I believe, is the announcement. Also, as well, the announcement, at least that I saw, said that Fanatics is paying 10 times more than anybody else is paid for the exclusive license.
Wow,
through baseball.
Yeah,
I mean, the elephant in the room, right, is Fanatics. With this, there's a lot of economic related speculation that we can have over the next year, 2 years, 5 years until this takes over. But question I want to know is Fanatics going to release checklists a week or two beforehand so that we can, that and Baseball Cardpedia's got to upload those. So,
Oh yeah. Working on Panini Immaculate, and it's like, oh.
I'm sorry.
At least Panini has the common courtesy of uploading their checklists as a comma delimited file, unlike Topps, which just throws it out there as a PDF. So
a lot of people have brought up the question, I know, in our YouTube chat, as well as saw it all over Twitter and Facebook today, about the cost associated with cards 5 years from now. Are we going to have? Is it going to be easier on our pocketbooks to collect? And the bottom line is, in my opinion, is who the hell knows? There's no way if we can forecast Topps Chrome, we talked about it on our show last night. As recently as 2014, you could buy a box for about $100, and they're dropping at an MSRP of $350 now in 6-7 years. I mean, that's incredible inflation. And it's harder to pull parallels. It's harder to get color out of these packs and buy them on the secondary market for collectors. And you'd have to buy 3 boxes of Topps Chrome at over $1,000 to theoretically get base set, at least enough base cards to complete a set, which is, I think, a 200 card base set if I remember. And it's like we just don't know. Paul, you alluded to it earlier. How many products are they going to have to release each year to satisfy the license? And then subsequently, are they going to make a lot more? Is there going to be a cap, like we've seen with the Bowman products and whatnot with Topps currently? I mean, we just don't know what it's going to look like. It could be incredibly priced. I mean, this could blow up in their faces because the economic bubble could burst, and now you lose a lot of collectors and a lot of external money right now. What are your guys' thoughts?
Well, No, I agree. I think one big wave is the news that happened with, I know you guys talked about it yesterday, but PWCC, and they were the largest consigner of cards on the largest marketplace for selling cards, and now they can't do that, and they're supposedly going to do their own thing. But now who's going to trust them at this point, right? Because if think of all the fees and stuff that the eBay was taking in for those guys. So I want to see what that does to the current market. But yeah, you're right. I think that if you paid 10 times what Topps paid for the license previously, what are these prices for boxes going to look like, and how long can that last? Because even now, again, it's a struggle for the normal collector to go out and to pick up a box. So it'd be very interesting to see. But I don't. Yeah, it's mind-boggling to kind of wrap our head around what can and is going to happen.
For me, I think part of it is the collecting experience going to be the same. Maybe there's a way with Fanatics through their distribution, through if Josh Luber is indeed running this new company, his experience with StockX, maybe we're just looking at it how we've always collected, right? So what if part of this deal too involves marketplaces? NFTs are part of this. I don't know what things are going to say,
Sure.
but those digital things are part of it as well. I just think that it wouldn't shock me if things just look a lot different. The play here isn't just the production and pack distribution of cards. There's something much bigger that I can't speak for anyone else but myself, but me just being a little bit older now and a little bit more gray just doesn't, I don't see it right away. I need to see it in action because, I just think things are going to look a lot different with this.
They have to, right?
Yeah, and with the whole MSRP thing, Topps doesn't actually have an MSRP. They have their costs that dealers not have to pay, but for the longest time they've been more along the lines of just charge what you want and the market will decide it. Has that meant more on their website? Yeah, but they're not starting out really high and then going lower. They're kind of coming in where I actually don't pay attention too much to what they sell it for, but from the lack of outrage that I see, it's probably a fairly reasonable, at least to what other places are selling for. I honestly can't say I don't know what's happened in the last year and a half. It seems to be that the starting price has started high and then kind of creeped down because it was Donruss basketball this year that just, when it was like $800 for a hobby box or $1,200 or something when it first came out, and it's dropped since then, but it's still higher than it was last year for a lesser product, at least player wise.
So at least for retail releases, after having a good discussion with the MLB PA rep, who was at the Million Card Rip Party, he stated essentially, much like we try to get these companies to include an even amount of, not just the Yankees per se, and even distribution. Some sets are going to have less Marlins, some sets are going to have more Dodgers. Fine. But they want representation for all 30 teams. The players' union wants that, understandably. Why are you going to cut out one of the teams? But also, they want to have something available for the common person who goes to Walmart, hasn't bought a box in 5 years, and wants to pick up a $20 box and not get sticker shock. And on the flip side, they want to have some high-end stuff that for group breakers and for high-end lottery better than the casino, must have that 24 grand box. They want those available as well to fit all markets, and it just makes sense.
Totally.
I want to go back to something that Ben said about Topps Chrome. Part of the reason why Topps Chrome has gone from a $100 box 5 years ago or so to to 350 is all the new money that's come into the hobby over the last year and a half, 2 years.
Sure.
When this license comes into effect in 2026, are a lot of these new are a lot of these people going to still be in the hobby? I don't know. I don't think so.
You know, I've said, and this is my personal opinion, that the bubble has burst because we've seen the right-sided trajectory go up, 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 up for now 5 years, right? 2017
Right.
through current.
Right.
It can't continue to go up. This is an economic anomaly. Markets just don't continue to go up at a 45-degree angle forever. At some point, they're going to have a massive dip. And whether some of the more recent stuff is COVID related, we don't know all of the details. It's like a presidency. We don't know how good a president was until 20 years later when we can see some of that stuff that happened during their term. And I think right now we're not going to know for a few years how COVID really affected the hobby. All of this additional money, stimulus, unemployment. At least in California right now, you'll make more money not going to work than you will going to work and making, minimum wage and a little bit more. But
there's also people like me and Ant where now we don't have to drive 45 minutes to work. We don't have to get the car repaired. We don't need the oil changes as often. So there's extra money as well.
Yeah, you're not going to Starbucks. All your disposable income. Now that I'm back at the office, I'm spending more money in gas, lunches, all of that peripheral money is now that, your disposable money is starting to dry up a little bit, but not for everybody. And, again, Chris, 5 years from now, how much of this fringe money, this external money, this temporary money, because we're here for the long haul. And speaking of people that have been around for a long time as a collective group, there's a lot of people that are just in this for right now and will move on as the market shifts and they can go back to other interests. And Fanatics has to wait 5 years. We're talking that a lot of time can change in 5 years.
Well, we forget we're not going to have a season or a full season next year in baseball, right? Because we know these owners and players hate each other.
Stoppage.
Yeah, it's going to totally happen. I mean, I think that's the biggest thing. We'll see what happens with that and how that can change and what that agreement then will look like because of the work stoppage that's probably going to happen. I think Olbermann said it the best. I mean, Keith Olbermann is, he's always going to say something wild, but he said he compared Rob Manfred to Jim Jones of Jonestown. He's ending the 71-year relationship with Topps at the historic peak of interest in Topps cards. This moron and the morons who work for him cannot see past next Tuesday. And he goes on. He had a couple of different tweets about this, and he's like, "Yeah." He goes, "Yeah, I was a semi consultant at Topps for whatever." And he always did that, like, "Hey, the first pack of the year thing," which I always thought was neat. It was a little gimmicky, but hey, I got it. Like he truly loves the sport of baseball. True. And hearing that, you got to think like you have like basically Fanatics is like an in-house is now going to be your in-house card company. So now you're going to be able to push everything you want. It reminds me of the movie Draft Day with Kevin Costner. It was just like a big propaganda film for the NFL and how great everything in the NFL and all this stuff. And at the end of the day, it's like, okay, but how is that going to affect do they even care about the collectability? Are they just looking at the dollar signs? So, and
on that point, you mentioned that MLB and the NFL both have equity in Fanatics, right?
NFL and Major League Baseball, yes.
And as part of this deal, the players' associations are now going to have equity in this trading card wing of Fanatics, right?
Presumably, yep.
Who's to say that as a marketing for a marketing purposes that the trading card business isn't operated as something along the line of a loss leader? That Fanatics and their owners are willing to take a loss on their cards to promote the sport and promote collecting. I know that's probably not going to happen, but it might.
Yeah. I like it.
I'm a big believer that marketing should be done organically. The less money you spend on your profit and loss in marketing and advertising, the better, especially if your revenues can increase without that being a major expenditure. So yeah, Chris, I could definitely see that happening where, hey, we'll take the L over here because we're all profiting over here. So we don't need this to be, Topps has to make money off this. That's, I was looking at the Q2 stats that Suze shared the other day, and I didn't get a chance to dissect it because we weren't going to have enough time to talk about it on last night's show. I was like, all right, I'll look at it, Thursday, Friday this weekend, and we'll talk about it next week. And then this bombshell happens, and it's like, oh, now I got to look at it because I want to see how much of their profit, at least gross revenue, derived specifically from trading cards. We know that, they got the confectionery aspect. Good for them. That's not where their bread and butter is. And I don't think that they're going to lose it. It's just, they've got to make that in order to come out in the black every year, especially if they're going to go public. You now have to come out in the black every quarter or more often than not to appease your shareholders. It's a whole different dynamic with Fanatics if this is just one aspect of their portfolio, whereas with Topps, it's the primary aspect of theirs.
Which was a thing I wanted to ask you guys was, similar to how Topps, rest in peace, guys, just bought that a week and a half ago. Similar to how, has been alluded to, they have other divisions, candy and confectionery and a few other divisions. Fanatics does have the quote-unquote authentic jerseys that they sell, the fan memorabilia in stores. So they do have another division, which makes me wonder if this isn't just a tie-in to get in with the Players Association to get authentic game-used memorabilia, not only for presumably for products, but for stores to take over something like TriStar or the others have going on. And I found this particularly interesting from ESPN. According to a memo from MLBPA obtained by ESPN, a Fanatics founded company that is yet to be named will be the exclusive licensee in the baseball card category after Panini and Topps' license with the MLBPA expire at the end of 2022. The deal also includes National Basketball Players Association and the NFL Players Association, along with the MLBPA, will have equity in this new venture, as will MLB and the NBA. According to a report in the Wall Street Journal, NBA and NFL union deals with Panini expired at the end of 2025-2026, respectively. Interesting.
First of all, I'll be a Fanatics fan if on the back of the card it's a jersey card. It can tell you what and where the player wore the jersey, and it just doesn't say, hey, this is just a jersey from any player at any point in time ever, because like you look at the back, like somebody showed the LaMelo Ball, like this card does not contain this, a relic that doesn't pertain to a player, certain player, time, game, whatever it says, and it's just like, hey, we just cut a piece of fabric and stuck it in here with this guy's picture on it, so there you go, be happy. I find it interesting. You read all of that and it's like, to be named. What happens? So with the MLBPA and MLB baseball have different deals with Topps. Is that what I'm seeing? I saw there that they end in different years.
Yeah.
Yep.
So how's Topps going to make baseball cards with the players if they don't have a license with the association?
I think the way Topps has always done business is that because they were making baseball cards before the establishment of the MLBPA, they've always signed players to individual contracts.
Okay.
Similar to how Whopper Deck has it now.
The union.
Oh, and like that's why Bumgarner hasn't had a card for five years or something like that.
But
yeah, it's the reason why, like throughout the 90s and into the 2000s, the Bowman brands had like hundreds of minor leaguers on their true rookie cards because they can do it. They could sign players and put them, and they were able to put them in major league sets years before the other companies who were bound to the group licensing agreement were allowed to.
Where that comes into play, the way currently is, from what I understand, and you can see it in Leaf products, and now the Onyx with theirs. I believe the number is 2. You can only have 2 current players before you need to go get the MLBPA license. It's kind of like all the players agree that we're going to share the pie together. But if a couple people have little side deals like that, Top still signs everyone to individual deals, but you're only allowed a small number. From what I understand, same with the NFL. So if you see a Leaf product or someone else, again, Onyx has been doing it with current players. A couple of years ago, you saw Tom Brady across all the Leaf products. It's because you're allowed 1 or 2, but once you get beyond whatever their magic number is, then it has to become licensed. That's why Onyx had to go get MLB PA license a few years ago for, I think, even some of their memorabilia offerings they were doing. And that was what struck me, because doing the math, when I saw that myself earlier today, it's like, well, one ends here, one ends here. The only thing that I could think of would be for those couple of years, if it stays the way it is with the current licensors and Fanatics does their own company from scratch, well, does that mean that we just get Bowman products? So Topps can still do prospect-driven things because those players aren't part of the PA yet, but they have that deal to have, players in major league licenses with the uniforms and everything else. So, but then what does that mean, that Fanatics is going to spend all this money and not have MLB marks for 2 years? I don't know about that either. I think that's where the bigger picture comes into play, that what we know now and what actually ends up happening could be very different in that regard.
Well, and does a product like Bowman continue to exist? Because with the Players Association having equity in Fanatics, they only want their players in their products. They don't want a bunch of minor leaguers that they're not representing yet in a product. So
and it's not like Major League Baseball's cared about minor leaguers.
Well, yeah.
Especially the Oakland A's. Here's your old cheese sandwich from last week's gas station.
Well, and Paul, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't it the antitrust exemption baseball has to where they can suppress minor league? Basically, the minor leaguers are inexpensive, to put it delicately. They're inexpensive labor, right? So you don't have to offer them $50,000 a year like they should, a livable wage.
There's still litigation ongoing on that, and what that is there's a old famous Supreme Court decision that basically boils down to MLB was being sued for antitrust, and the holding of the decision is, but it's baseball, so they get an exemption. But if anything, the NIL rights cases that we've seen, the Supreme Court, reading between the lines, has sent the message that just because this is the way it's always been done is not going to be a valid defense anymore. That's part of what the NCAA was saying. We've always done this, and if we don't do it this time, everything's going to fall apart. So that kind of is, why the lawyer in me really wants to see what's going to happen here, because when you have one company just aggregating all of the licenses, at some point, Whopper Deck, Panini, Topps, you're the livelihood of your company is at risk with this, and without even getting into the merits of whether there's an antitrust meritful suit there, you might have to bring an antitrust suit no matter what, just to actually get back in the game. Because the antitrust suits, they're very expensive on both sides. They take a long time. So sometimes they're good negotiating chips to open up discussions to, hey, maybe we can reorganize this license and give us a couple products, make it an exclusive, but we get 2, non-exclusive products or something like that. So, that's, I think the antitrust aspects of this are pretty interesting. So I really want to see what happens with that.
My big thing is what happens with the distribution of the product. Does this kill the distributors? Because you think, Fanatics already has a pretty good foothold. If you try to go buy something from MLB or NFLshop.com, it basically is just the rebranded Fanatics site. You know, it's the same stuff because I was trying to find a hat and it was just like all the same stuff everywhere. I mean, you know, you have these guys that have Tops, like some of the old timers have the Tops direct accounts, you know, where they're getting product directly from Tops versus a distributor. And, you know, what do you guys think that does to that model? You know, and I think it's a broken model being involved in it and having some dealings with two different distributors, where you're a guy like Brenton Becca, you know, he's been opening, you know, hundreds of cases every year, can't get a case anymore because he's not meeting the minimum spend of like $100,000 a month or $1 million a year to open product. What do you guys think?
Yeah, it's completely ridiculous. One, that Brent and Becca were shouted out on that. But two, speaking at least from my one order on Fanatics for a retail box of Whopper Deck, it took a month to deliver. And this was stated, mind you. Release date is Wednesday. It will be here a month from now. But they delivered what they said they would, but ridiculous timelines. I've heard, at least from the memorabilia stuff that they sell, that the quality isn't there, as well as some other products, hats, jerseys, etc. The ironing isn't the same, the stitching. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see whether they choose to go online as their own mini Amazon of cards, or if they choose to go the holding MJ Holdings or whatever distributor route they choose to go with, if they go that route, and how that affects even more so retail versus hobby shop. I mean, if they go solely online, what's that do for hobby shops?
Especially since there's so many opening up nowadays, and they're popping up like weeds in the summertime. I mean, it's just everybody has an LCS now, and it's man, I would not go anywhere near a brick and mortar. You know, that's where I believe that you're going to have to partner still with Tops, because they do have these distribution channels and these partnerships with different third-party logistic partners that can execute the shipping and get it to the consumers, whether it's direct to consumer, whether it's, you know, to your LCSs or these big, you know, distribution houses. There's so much that is the unknown. The problem is, and one thing that they're going to have to understand and respect, is this is an at-will hobby. We're only in this hobby because we choose to be. Again, it goes back to, you know, none of this it's not a consumable food. It's not water. It's not transportation or shelter. We don't need this. That's why when we say, oh, I need this to complete my rainbow, you don't need it. You hobby need it. You know, you need the drug of it. You need the collector needs it. We don't, you know, ultimately we want it. There are two different, I always say there's a difference between value and worth. There's a difference between want and need, and we know that. And they need to understand that. If you start falling apart at the seams, a lot of us are just going to walk away, especially as it's already gotten too expensive.
And I think with the distribution, I mean, maybe that's part of why they paid so much for it. If they have a simpler distribution model and they can keep more of the profit themselves, maybe that's part of the reason that they entered it right now. So again, we'll figure it out a lot more as as things happen. But
maybe Fanatics just starts opening up their own hobby stores.
Yeah.
Sports Cards Plus, a Fanatics experience in every shopping mall in America. Cut out the middleman.
You know, I actually work for a company that franchises, you know, we're trying to get that portion off the ground, right? Hopefully be as big as a Subway someday. But Subway is not a traditional business model. They're just a franchise company. I don't believe they own any corporate stores anymore. They make all of their money off of franchise sales and royalties, and that's it. And they don't care if the business owner, you know, they'll put these up right across the street from each other. They've literally bastardized the Subway brand, and you see it in the food quality. And Subway has a dangerous proposition or road ahead that in the next 5 to 7 years, we might not see any more Subways. They might fall to the way of the Blockbuster Video or the Sears or the Kmart. Kmart had, in the 80s, had $38 billion plus in sales year over year for a few years in a row, with over 360,000 people in their employ. And where is Kmart now? It's no business is too big to fail. No industry is too big to fail. And Fanatics needs to understand that the consumer comes first. And if they can't deliver consistently, and then they've got a little bit of time to figure this out now, right? Because the license isn't going into effect next week. You got a couple of years to figure this out. And I'm sure they've had smart people in the room, but they need to make sure those smart people are guiding them correctly. Otherwise, who knows where this hobby is going to be in 10 years.
Well, and it's interesting you bring up Blockbuster, because that was one of my first thoughts was, as often as you saw Blockbusters throughout the early 90s and the mid 2000s, you also saw, things like coffee chains and Starbucks and all these mom and pop brick and mortar stores that you just don't see in the malls, or what's a mall nowadays. I mean, to be honest, seeing all of these close, it was even with Amazon encroaching. I mean, it used to be that your town got huge when you got a Walmart or a super Walmart, and now I think it's just to get an Amazon distribution hub near you, or I guess in this case now a Fanatics case. And really, for the general age range of collectors in this hobby, how many of them are going to want to go online without having to call their stepson in to help them fix the computer or the internet?
Yeah, that's a really good point, Steph. Yeah, my dad is a toy train collector, and he's been collecting toy trains for 60 years. And we talk about the linear parallels between the two hobbies a lot. And that hobby as a whole has really aged itself out to the point where you're not collecting toy trains anymore, because that's not a method of transportation that we use. So you're not going to want one. It was a lot different in the 50s and the 60s. And as they get older, at some point, that hobby entirely is going to die off, or be, a very small portion of collectors still. And same could be said here. A lot of us are starting to get into our 30s and our 40s and our 50s. What happens in 20 years when we all start dying off? We've talked about this for a long time, that this is not a kid's hobby anymore, that the manufacturers have priced them out.
It hasn't been a kid's hobby since I was a kid.
Yeah,
and I'm a middle-aged man now. So
if we start dying off, if our money goes away, if we all decide that we're going to stop collecting,
there's going to be generations that will replace us. I don't have any doubt of that.
But to what degree?
I saw all the kids walking the National 4, all right?
Sure.
That's a question that doesn't need to...
But that's also a monetary play, though, too. Right now, everybody is kids don't want opening day packs. Let's be honest, right?
No,
they don't want big league baseball. They
don't want to be condescended to.
Yeah, I mean, kids are going to want the Tatis Auto just like we do, right? The hobby does. Everybody's looking for the flavor of the week, whatever name it is and whatever sport. Kids don't want a base card of some random relief pitcher from Big League Baseball or Topps Total. Hardcore collectors might. Yeah, I need that 8th reliever because he was part of my team in 2019. I've got to have a card of him to represent that year. Come on. I mean, kids are throwing it away.
How do you know that the kids of today aren't going to grow up to be those collectors that want, the middle inning relievers and the third string catchers and the utility guys?
The optics suggest otherwise right now, and we don't know. And hopefully I'd be more than happy to, Chris, 10 years from now, if I'm wrong, I'd be more than happy to buy you a cup of coffee and say I was wrong. Good, because that means that the hobby is healthy and growing into those next generations.
Sure.
But when
Extra
you were a
cream
kid,
and Splenda, by the way.
it was all about.
There you go, Matt.
I'll
be happy to buy you one anyway.
It was all about Bo Jackson, Will Clark, Mark McGwire, Canseco. It was all about the big name players. When we were kids, I didn't want to care about collecting a pitcher that was on a different team. But now, like going back and doing building old sets and stuff, you want to have that third string catcher card now. You want to, I don't think that the kids now, they want to collect the hottest, newest guy, but later on they're going to grow up, because we all did the same thing, right? We didn't want the commons when we were kids. We wanted all the awesome stuff that everybody talked about, and that's why I see with these kids, and some of these have ridiculous collections. I mean, the stories I heard in National, kids rolling around with the suitcases that had cards that made grown men just draw drop, and they're 15 years
I
old.
was there. I saw it.
Yeah. So I just think we're in an interesting time, and we have some time to still like live out the. I feel like Topps got like a death sentence today. Like, hey, it's like you have 3 years to live. Good luck, and we'll see what happens.
So
God,
I would
have
also
mercy on your soul.
want to get your guys' opinion on this. Posted this morning, 6:24 a.m. I'm really feeling mudstock this morning. The world still doesn't understand the profitability, growth, and strength of the manufacturers.
Oops.
There's that Twitter account, bad things, pictures of bad things, pictures of things that are
exposed.
Yeah, that's one of those.
And that aged real quick, real bad.
Like
that was like sushi at a gas station. It was good for like two seconds, and then it's expired.
Yeah.
Good times. Well,
does part of you think he knew that was going to happen, and he's just like, I'm going to throw out a crazy tweet this morning about it, and just like clown everybody?
Not the first time. Not the first time Brian's done it. I mean, he's had a lot of meltdowns where he's deleted his entire Twitter timeline.
Yeah, and he got so mad that he had me call him on the phone, so he could yell at me on the phone, and I could yell at him. That was fun.
So we're approaching an hour, and I know we tried to keep this to about an hour,
sure,
just to kind of get our initial first thoughts. I think this is one of those moments and one of these topics where, 3 months from now, 6 months from now, we all need to regather when we're a little bit smarter on this particular topic, and we have a lot more information to dissect and analyze. It's just been a really weird week.
Settled.
Yeah, I mean, these two topics, the eBay versus PWCC happens Tuesday, and then Thursday Topps loses their license. I mean, we're talking about two incredibly heavy and large topics that happen literally within a 48-hour window. I mean, if we dissect the last 10 years, we can probably have a handful that would even come close, to these types of things. And to have them, I mean, it's literally been an amazing week to be in the hobby. Let's not have this happen tomorrow. I need to get some work done. I'm sure you guys do too. I need to see my family. I need to step outside and get some fresh air. I mean, it's like, I thought Tuesday, my timeline blew up. My DMs are blowing up. And then next thing you know, it's like, all right, cool, that kind of blew over. That was yesterday. And then today happened. And it's like, driving home like, oh, we're doing another podcast night. Didn't plan that at lunchtime. And so any final thoughts? Go around the room real quick. Any final thoughts real quick? 60 seconds on.
So I heard a story today, and I believe it's probably like 90% true from the person that told it to me. I was at the card shop today. I heard that Ken Golden went up to PWCC and knocked on their front door and said, "Hey, give me all my stuff." I don't know.
Interesting.
But no, I think you're right as far as time will tell on this. We just got to wait and see. And I think we need to keep. I think what you guys did here tonight was awesome, and revisit every so often so we can kind of have a catalog history. It's we have a recording of what we thought in the moment and how it changes over time, because our memories change and our ideas and thoughts change. And I think this is a very good way to do this, just to kind of see how they maneuver this path. And I mean, I'm all for optimism, and maybe it's right. I mean, Chris had a tweet earlier today that basically said like they got their top kind of got what was coming to them because of what they've done over the past numerous years with gimmicks and other things. And I think maybe some fresh eyes, some fresh blood would do this. I also think too, competition would have made Topps a lot better and the other companies better had there been an ability for competition. But I understand the business of the MLB and the other sporting, the players associations and all the major sports. They don't want to have to deal with all these little tiny agreements when they have so many. They much rather just deal in big lots and say, I talked to this person about this person about this, and they move on because they have other things they're worrying about, much bigger things.
Like a whole
sport.
So
I think, So I think it's interesting to see, but everybody's reactions today has been crazy. I had calls from other people that don't collect, asking me questions about that today. So.
Yeah. No, I really enjoyed today. I really enjoyed visiting with all you guys, and probably the best thing that I did today is I have every morning I open my browser and a bunch of searches are run for new lawsuits and everything else, and I got to add Fanatics to that today. So I'm just every morning.
Yeah.
Today's gonna be so great. Looking for that first lawsuit.
That in and of itself is the best part of this entire podcast, finding out what you do with your morning.
Excitement.
I check my email. I check, I do the good old Facebook and make sure grandma's still okay. And yeah, you look for lawsuits in bulk. That's awesome.
Yeah, and trademark filings and patent filings. It's so sad.
Yeah, you bad boy. You're living on the wild side of life. That's incredible.
It really is.
Now, is that before or after the third and fourth coffee?
It's actually that is my morning caffeine, is seeing who, because if there's a new lawsuit that's been filed there, that first Fanatics lawsuit, I'm going to be just cheering and jumping up and down. It'll be awesome.
Chris, Ryan,
I want to plug something.
Yeah, go for it.
This Saturday morning on Hobby Hotline, it's going to be a special edition. We're going to have the whole gang on discussing this acquisition. So Dr. Beckett's going to be on, Rich Klein, myself, cast of thousands. So, and it's going to be open-ended, so we may go 2 hours on this. I don't know. So be there, 11 o'clock, wherever, YouTube, Facebook. I think we're on Twitch. So just search Hobby Hotline in the Google machine. You'll find it. 11 Eastern, 8 Pacific, and 12:30 in Newfoundland. Be there.
Ryan, any final thoughts?
Not much. I'm more in the wait and see. A lot to process today, really. It's gonna change how we collect, how we look at what we did collect, how other people. I don't know. It's all just it's a lot today. It's been a long day, long week.
It is. We need a hobby nap, I think.
I have one
This
more
is
thing.
the biggest story in the hobby in our
Decade, at
lifetimes.
least.
If you
Yeah,
think
probably
about it.
ever. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, today is one of those days that things changed. Like they really did. To the scope, it would be one thing if it was just baseball,
Sure.
but now we're talking basketball and football all at the same time, all coming down at the same time. With, there's some major the hints of disruption have been going on for a while now, and you can see that people are lining up the dominoes to, make their move. I'm making chess and domino and checkers analogies all at the same time. But if you look at all the acquisitions, all the things that have happened in the last year, it just kind of looks like things are going on and wheels are churning, and we're not done yet. Like, that's the crazy thing too, is there's still going to be more, I'm sure. I don't actually know, but if you just kind of look critically at when moves are made, it's a bigger picture thing. So in some ways, I think our industry is going to shrink, but at the same time, it's going to blow up. Like, I really do. These people who are making these big moves wouldn't be doing it if they didn't have something else 3-4 steps down the road that we might not be thinking of right now. And that, to me, is the piece that I'm kind of excited about, to see what will be different. I can choose to like it or not like it or wave my fist at it, but it's still cool to see something new come along the pipeline that doesn't involve sparkles hidden in the backgrounds of cards.
Thanks, Tom.
Hopefully when we meet in 2026, we're not talking about codes that are on backs of cards.
Yes.
That for me will be a big win, that we can recognize and appreciate a card for what it is and the story that it tells, and that when we see a really cool photo, we don't automatically go, that's the variation. We go, no, that's the base. That's just me wishful thinking on something very small, and probably selfishly, and hopefully a few Montreal Expos cards, but not too many. Just that nice sweet spot of stuff. So we'll see. It's all wait and see, is my long-winded way of saying that.
No, and I'm kind of with Ryan. I want to see how this shakes out, and I want to see if they choose to go their own route, or if they choose to pick up one or more of these companies. It's going to be interesting to see, and how it all rattles out between all of the distributors, the retail locations, the hobby shops, the collectors. Because I know, people say that that they only want the uniform, the logo. Well, you're about to be tested, I think, and maybe, and as well, I feel that it's probably the biggest news since 2010, 2011, with the Upper Deck, Topps, Panini getting the basketball license, give or take, maybe even further back. And I feel unfortunate for those that need to go update their resume, because things are about to change.
But we don't know exactly how.
Sure, but it may not be a bad time.
I have one quick thing. It just shows that nobody cares about hockey cards.
Liar.
Amen. Yeah.
I mean, I'm serious.
Whopper Deck is must be sitting pretty right now.
They're just
we got our hockey license. We got AEW now.
I feel like Fanatics is like the SEC, and we're just going to swallow up all these teams and like this mega thing, and then just like, we don't really care about the Pac-12, so you guys just stay out there. You're okay. We're not going to come for you. We don't want to. It's too far. We're okay. We're going to steal these other ones. We'll be fine. It just like I love Upper Deck. I love their hockey products. I mean, they put out some awesome, glorious stuff, but it shows that they're that far of a distant player behind the other three major sports.
Maybe that's not a bad thing. Chris Carlin probably walked into his office, this afternoon and said, "Hey, why don't everybody take the afternoon off? We're just fine."
I rented a margarita machine for the afternoon if you want to hang out.
Lunch is on me.
So let's not forget, though, it's only Thursday. We still have
one more day. Oh.
Usually the bad news is on Friday at around 4:30. So.
That's right. Take out the trash day, right? That's how they do it.
Barstool Sports is now running Major League Baseball.
Props to
you. So, gentlemen, 8 hours ago, this was not on anybody's docket for this evening. I want to really, 4 hours ago, we tried to put this together, and everybody's like, "Hey, I guess, I'm in. I've got time." I want to thank everybody on behalf of About the Cards and of course, Steph. Ryan, thank you. Chris Harris, Paul Lesko, Ryan Cracknell, and of course, Tim Shepler for coming back on. Hopefully it's not a one night only, but I appreciate all you guys. And if something else drops, whether it's this or something else, if there's updates, I would hope that you gentlemen will all come and we can reconvene and readdress this as a 2.0 episode and 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 as more info comes. But gentlemen, it was an honor to sit with you guys tonight and have you on super short notice. I appreciate everybody making that time. And everybody out there listening, if you have any questions, you have all of these resources as well as some of the other ones that Chris had mentioned. We don't know anything. We're just speculating and kind of talking in the abstract. And as we learn more, we're going to probably do it as a group. And like Paul said, it's going to be fun. So thank you, gentlemen. Maybe not for Topps, but yeah. So thank you, everybody. We really appreciate an hour of your time tonight. Thank you if you're out there listening, and keep collecting. We'll see you next Wednesday.
Yep. See you guys then.
Thank you. Take care.